Hello everyone, and welcome to our live stream. My name's Paul, and I'm an enterprise account executive at JetBrains. Today we're going to talk about how businesses can unlock the full potential of AI for software development. More specifically, we'll show you how Junie, JetBrains' new professional coding agent, helps you to do that productively, safely, and with minimal disruption. When we think about AI in software development, we imagine it being fast, high quality, and reliable, just like a Formula One car. That's a vision many engineering leaders have, but getting there may be harder than you expect. Here's what we'll cover today. AI-powered development, where the opportunities are and what challenges remain. A look at Junie, our new professional AI coding agent, followed by a demo of Junie in action. And finally, key takeaways and a special offer for attendees. So let's get started. According to Capgemini, the use of AI agents in organizations grew 3.5 times last year, and that number will only go up. Adoption is accelerating across the industry. Microsoft says 20 to 30% of its new code is written with AI. Google is at 30%, and Anthropic reports a staggering 70% of new pull requests written with AI. And it's not only the tech industry. Financial institutions are also moving from early pilots to company-wide rollouts. Here are 3 recent examples. In the UK, we have NatWest, who are partnering with OpenAI to integrate AI co-pilots into their developer workflows and customer-facing apps. It's about both productivity and modernization at scale. Goldman Sachs has deployed a generative AI assistant to more than 10,000 employees. Their goal is to embed AI into daily tasks, from document handling to knowledge queries. And last, but certainly not least, Citi is expanding its internal AI tools to reach a large majority of its 230,000 person workforce. They're supporting developers, customer service, operations, and more. So, across the industry, AI is becoming an operational foundation, no longer just a trend. Even experienced engineers who were initially skeptical about AI tools are now on board, according to the Pragmatic Engineer. They are enthusiastic about the new opportunities that AI brings. As AI tools get better, confidence in them only continues to grow. This is not surprising. After all, 3/4 of developers experience productivity gains from AI tools, as shown by the data from our developers survey. Each year, the JetBrains Developer Survey collects responses from more than 20,000 developers. 2/3 of developers say they save at least 2 hours per week using AI tools. Many say 4 hours, 8 hours, and even more. That's time that developers can reinvest in shipping features, improving architecture, or reducing tech debt. But there's a catch. Acceleration without stability doesn't help. If the wheels don't grip the road, the car loses traction and slides out of control. Likewise, fast code generation doesn't matter if it creates bugs, security issues, or technical debt. And this is exactly what seems to be happening. According to the recent Git Clear report, the amount of added code is growing. The increase is especially noticeable in recent years when AI coding tools became more widely adopted. But at the same time, the amount of refactored code is falling. Compared to adding code, which requires only pressing tab, code refactoring takes a lot of work and a good understanding of the code base. And when less refactoring happens, issues tend to accumulate, slowing teams down in the long run. We're already seeing the effects of this. A majority of developers say they spend more time debugging and fixing security issues caused by AI-generated code. The need for oversight and quality control is more important than ever. So, the big question is, how can we get the benefits of AI without sacrificing code quality? We built our AI stack to solve exactly this issue. The AI assistant helps with daily productivity, completions, docs generation, in-editor chat, and Junie is a coding agent that handles complex, multi-step tasks like feature builds and migrations, all while keeping humans in the loop. Both tools are available under the same JetBrains AI subscription. Let's zoom in on Junie. Here's how it works. Developers assign Junie tasks, Junie executes them. Developers review and approve the results. You can give Junie more autonomy or use approval mode to take back control. This flexible model is part of why Junie is so effective. Junie is built to deliver a real productivity boost, rigorous quality. It's also secure and compliant, and you can always count on fast adoption with no workflow disruption. Now, let me break those down in a bit more detail. Here's what our recent user survey tells us about Junie's impact on productivity. We collected feedback from over 270 users, including developers and engineering managers. 46% of developers report saving between 3 to 8 hours per week whilst using Junie. Some even save more than 8 hours. If you convert these time savings into a monetary value, assuming a typical developer rate of around $60 per hour, that adds up to between $700 to over $2,000 in monthly productivity gains and savings, and that's per developer. The management perspective aligns with that. 82% of engineering managers in the same survey say Junie helps improve overall team productivity. Like we stated earlier, speed alone isn't enough. You have to think long term. Code quality, maintainability, and security. Quality is non-negotiable, and we take a rigorous approach to it. First, Junie ensures high quality output. It analyzes alternatives and chooses the best fit solution. Junie uses 25 years of JetBrains IDE's code intelligence to improve AI output quality, and we only switch to new models once they're proven to increase quality. Second, Junie helps to improve your code base quality. It applies project-specific coding rules and guidelines. It suggests refactoring, increases test coverage, and it spots bugs early before they become expensive production issues. Now, let's talk about security, which, just like code quality, is non-negotiable. We don't train models on your code. JetBrains never uses the data you submit to train generative AI models. That's guaranteed. We don't retain data on our servers or through subcontractors, and the SOC 2 certification is coming soon for Junie. The audit is in progress. Junie is built into JetBrains IDEs, the tools developers already use and love, so there's no new tool to learn. This means faster adoption and no workflow disruption. And because it's built on 25 years of JetBrains tooling, Junie brings the same stability and trust that enterprises already rely on. Here's what our users say. One of the most common things we hear is how much they appreciate the quality of Junie's output. It's not just about generating code, it's about generating the right code that's maintainable, readable, and fits their style. Users also tell us that Junie often gets the job done in fewer attempts compared to other tools. They appreciate the deep integration with JetBrains IDEs, which means Junie can understand project structure and context in ways that other tools can't. Let me share a quick story about one of our customers, Uniphonic, an AI-powered engagement platform based in the Middle East. Their challenge was to stay fast and agile in order to deliver value to their customers. They realized that they need to adopt a strong agentic AI tool to boost their engineering efficiency, as well as reduce the number of bugs. Uniphonic had been using IntelliJ IDEA for many years, and now they decided to try Junie, the AI coding agent by JetBrains. Junie's great user experience and integration into JetBrains IDEs made it easy for them to adopt it without having to change their usual workflows. Uniphonic embedded Junie throughout their workflow, from generating production-ready code to reviewing pull requests, whilst improving code quality and reliability. The impact has been impressive. They're now shipping features faster, ensuring higher uptime, and ultimately giving their customers a more reliable experience. In their own words, Junie helps them move faster, use resources smarter, and ship reliable features on time. Let's quickly look at how Junie has evolved this year and where it's going next. In January 2025, we publicly announced Junie and launched our early access program. That helped us gather critical feedback from early adopters and iterate quickly. By April, Junie reached general availability, with support for major JetBrains IDEs and a wide range of technologies. Then, in July, we shipped some major improvements. That includes GitHub integration, a 30% performance boost, support for Model Context Protocol, and new capabilities for remote development. And now, in August, we're starting to roll out full-scale business solutions, including admin dashboards for better organization-wide visibility, full AI enterprise support, and much more to come over the next few months. So, stay tuned. Now it's time to see Junie in action, and I'll hand over to Arthur, Customer Success Engineer at JetBrains.
Hi, I'm Arthur from JetBrains, and today I'll be demoing two of our AI-powered tools, JetBrains AI Assistant and JetBrains Junie. Both are powered by large language models and both are deeply integrated into the IDE, but they serve different purposes. The AI assistant is a suite of productivity features, things like AI chat, code completion, and version control integrations. It's designed to support you in the moment, giving you quick suggestions and context-aware assistance while you stay in control. Junie, on the other hand, is an autonomous coding agent. Its job is to plan and execute multi-step tasks on its own. Junie can navigate your project, edit multiple files, execute terminal commands, run tests, and then report back on those results. It relies on the same core tools of the IDE, navigation, inspections, search, but it uses them to act more like a collaborator that can take on complex workflows end to end. Together, they complement each other. AI Assistant helps with the smaller interactive tasks where you want precision and control, while Junie takes on the larger multi-step operations where autonomy saves you time. For this demo, I'll be using a sample project called Junivest. It's a simple personal finance assistant, and it's a chat-based web app that gives advice on budgeting, saving, and investing. It's actually built with React and TypeScript, with a backend powered by the Open Router API for AI responses. This app was built by Junie, hence the name Junivest. And we'll be using both AI Assistant and Junie to make changes to this project. Let's start with the AI Assistant. I'll walk you through its core features first, from chat and completion to project rules, documentation, version control, and testing. And then we'll move on to Junie, where you'll see how an autonomous coding agent can take things even further. So the most central feature is the AI chat, the main way you interact with large language models inside your IDE. Think of it as your always available coding partner. You can ask questions, request explanations, or even delegate full tasks. So there's two modes. The chat mode, which is for quick questions and clarifications. Here, no code changes are made automatically. You get snippets, answers, or suggestions that you can apply yourself. However, there's also agent mode, and this is for more complex tasks. Here, the assistant can implement fixes, refactor across multiple files, generate tests, or run commands with the ability to review every change before it's applied. Okay, so now let's have a conversation with the assistant. Let's ask it some questions about our code base. I could ask it questions like, please explain the data flow in this project. For this particular request, I'm going to use the GPT-5 model. However, you can see here that I have options. I can use Claude 4.5 Sonnet, Claude 4, Gemini, etc. So we don't lock you down to specific models. Actually, JetBrains AI makes all the models available to you. So let's give this a run and see what we get back. So now the assistant is collecting context from the project, and we have a result here. And so you can see that it's breaking out the response into the various sections of the project. I can see here that it's telling me I have a chat feature. Also what the user does, it types and sends messages. There's also a bot response that sends post requests to an API. And so you can see now I have an understanding of this project. It's actually my first time, looking at the project. And so this is helpful. You can also make your responses more accurate. You can add context. You can attach files. You can use this current file shortcut. You can attach symbols from the project. You can also attach full files and folders. You also have access to any recent commits from the project. So the AI assistant can search through recent diffs and commits and use that as context as well as attaching images as well for extra context provided to the assistant just to improve your responses. Beyond the chat, the assistant also enhances code completion. This isn't just single line autocomplete. It can suggest entire code blocks or functions in real time based on your project context. So if we take a look at that live here, you can see that right now I'm inside of the login page in my project, and it's already suggesting some hints here for me that I can accept. And so I can do that by tabbing. And you can see now that the assistant is now working to complete multi-line completions right in the file here. And so I've accepted that. And now my logic here for my login form has been refactored right in the file, thanks to the AI assistant. Now, this is all being powered by Melum. It's JetBrains built. It's built by JetBrains. It's an AI model optimized specifically for code completion. That means it adapts to your coding style and naming conventions automatically. So you can actually personalize the behavior of code completion with 3 different modes. Here in the settings, right here under enable cloud code completion settings, you can see that I can drill down further to fine tune the inline code completions. You also have settings here for full line code completion, as well as the cloud models. And so right here where it says completion policy, I have a few different options between creative, balanced, and focused. With the focused mode, it's concise and precise with strict filtering. And conversely with balanced mode, a middle ground where you get more variety. And then the creative mode, it's open-ended, encouraging exploration by turning off various filters. There's also finer options for multi-line suggestions, automatic versus manual triggering, and even a purple caret indicator so you know when completions are active. So next, let's take a look at project rules. It's a way to encode your team's coding standards so the assistant follows them automatically. Here in the settings, you can see that we have the rules option here. And in these settings, you can define rules for naming conventions, style structure, or even project-specific tools. And these rules get stored as markdown in the .ai assistance rules file. Let's take a look here at one of the ones that I already have created. You can see here in the .ai assistant folder that I have this review guidelines markdown file. Here on the top, I can apply certain settings. So I can have this file be applied always. So it will be applied on every message. I can have it be applied manually to the context, or I can let the model choose when it should be applied. And here in this file, again, I have code review guidelines, things like naming conventions, style conventions, best practices. And then I can tell the model, if it's by decision, instructions for when this file should be applied. So here you can see I have this set for only TypeScript and Java files. So the AI assistant is also highly flexible in how it connects to tools and models. Let's take a look at some of the other settings that are available inside of the settings panel of the assistant. We can take a look first at Model Context Protocol, or MCP servers. These are tools that provide the assistant with much more capability and context. They can interact with external tools and data sources, for example, gather tables from databases, and also do things like connect to your GitHub instance and push and pull from your repo. As you can see here, I've connected GitHub Context 7 for documentation, Puppeteer, which allows the assistant to then access the web browser and take screenshots of errors, things of that nature. This is all made possible by the MCP connections. Something else worth pointing out here would be the model settings. And so the assistant also has the ability to connect to local models. So you can see here, I've set up Ollama as a provider. However, you also have LM Studio and OpenAI API models that you can connect the assistant to if you prefer to work with some local models. And those will be made available here in the chat. As you can see here, local models provided by Ollama, which I've connected to the project. And lastly, if you have a project where you want to restrict AI's access to that project, you can create what's called a .no AI file, and that'll prevent AI from gathering any context on your project. I can show you what that looks like here. So in the project root, if you create a new file and you name it .no AI, which I've done, you can see the assistant has automatically already transitioned to a disabled state, and it's respecting this file, and no other context will be gathered in this project. So that's a great way to maintain security for any projects that you don't want AI running within your organization. So another way to control AI access in your project is to create a .ai ignore file. So this is a way you can add in file paths, project directories to control AI's access in your project. It follows the same syntax as the git ignore file. So if you're familiar with git ignore and you already have one in your project, something to point out is that the assistant will actually pick up the git ignore file and respect it. However, if you don't have a git ignore file, you can also create this .ai ignore file to control the access in your project. Let's take a look at another feature, the in-editor code generation. It's another key workflow for the AI assistant. So instead of using the chat window, you can actually type prompts directly where you're coding. So in the file. And so the AI will generate or adjust code directly in line. You can actually use natural language for this feature. So as you can see here in the file, I can just start typing a request for the assistant in natural language. So I can say something like, create a function that logs out. Create a function that logs out every time this component renders. And you can see that the cursor turned purple, or the text turned purple. This is an indication that the assistant picked this up and is now ready for me to send the request off. And so hitting tab, you can see now that the request is being sent. Some changes are being planned, and we should see those changes being entered right directly in the file where I requested them. And so once the changes are entered, we can see here that the assistant added the use effect method. I can choose to accept these. I can add a follow-up message and provide more context, or I can discard the changes if I'm unhappy with the results. So the AI assistant can also generate documentation automatically, whether it's a method, class, or module. The AI assistant creates doc strings that follow the conventions of the language in your project. And so you can get to the documentation a number of different ways, but one way is through this AI Actions dynamic menu. And so you can see here, if I highlight the code in my file and right click on the page, I have access to this. And there's various options that I could choose. From this menu, I can choose to have my code explained by the assistant. It can do some refactoring, it can find problems. It can also write documentation. So if I select that, we'll see the request is processing and the assistant is writing on the spot documentation for this project. So the AI assistant also integrates tightly with your version control. It can generate commit messages. It can also explain commit messages or even write commit messages for you. So let's take a look at that in action. So right now, if I access the commit panel in the IDE, you can see that I have some changes that are ready to be staged and committed in my project. So if I select them here and then choose the galaxy icon, generate commit message with AI assistant here, you'll see that the assistant then goes through the changes that are staged in the project and comes up with a nice commit message that I can accept on the spot. So before committing, you can also do a code review with the AI assistant. You can access that here from the commit panel as well. And you can see the galaxy icon here is saying I can do a self-review. This will review my code changes before committing. This is also a good practice. It will analyze diffs and propose descriptive suggestions and look at problems in your code base, all with the click of a button. And so now the review is processing. And once it's done, we can see those results down here in the terminal. And you can see here, I'm getting some feedback. And so it's suggesting things like removing some comments, maybe improving some logic in some of the components. There's some unnecessary blank lines. And so again, this is a way to use the assistant to do a code review before you commit changes in your project. Okay, and finally, on the version control topic, the assistant can actually explain prior commits for you. So if you access the Git panel down here in the terminal, you can right-click on previous commits. And you see here, I have the option to explain the commit with AI Assistant. But as I select that, the assistant now is looking through the commit and looking through the diff history. And now it's giving me a nice explanation here in the panel and explaining what that commit was about. So you can see here, it says this commit removes an outdated unit test for the chat service and adds new authentication UI and basic validation. So that covers JetBrains AI Assistant. It's a tool set that helps you in the moment with interactive AI features while you stay fully in control. Now, let's take a look at Junie. Unlike AI Assistant, Junie is an autonomous coding agent. It can plan and execute multi-step tasks on its own, adding files, running commands, and reporting back on progress as it works. To see Junie in action right away, let's start a task from the built-in examples here. You can see we have some examples for writing up a README, analyzing dependencies in the project, maybe on the last 2 to 5 commits, generating a changelog. However, let's take a look at the project-specific guidelines. This is actually a special file used by Junie. It gets added to the context on every request. It's a great way to let the agent know about standards in your project, such as testing information, build instructions, any important notes that you think would be important for maybe a new software engineer on the team or a senior level developer. This is a way to keep the agent in line with the standards of your coding project. And so let's give that a run. And so you can see here that Junie is going to work now. On the left here, I can see a plan that Junie has created for this request. And I can expand that to see all of the details of the plan on the left. And on the right, I can watch Junie work under the hood. Junie uses different large language models under the hood depending on the task. But Junie uses GPT-5 from OpenAI by default. So as you can see here, Junie is opening up the package, inspecting the setup, and also the Vite config file. As you can see, the eye icon here is being displayed. This is an indicator that Junie is using some of the built-in tooling from IntelliJ. So while Junie is working, let's take a look at some of the models that are available that I alluded to. So in the settings here, we can see a number of different settings. And if we click on models, you can see by default, Junie is using GPT-5. However, we've also recently made Cloud Sonnet's 4.5 model available, as well as Sonnet 3.7 and Sonnet 4. Something else to point out about Junie, we can see here that it's providing feedback every time it sends a request to the LLM. The AI assistant operates in single round trips. So these interactions happen in milliseconds. However, Junie can make multiple round trips to the LLM, and this may take minutes to complete as Junie reasons through the project, through the requests, and also works to solve any bugs and execute tests. So we can see here that Junie is running the actual built-in tests from IntelliJ, and it's also opening up the TypeScript config file to do some inspections. And this is all to get a good understanding of the project and come up with a guidelines file for this project. So Junie has a couple of different modes of operation, ask mode and code mode. Right now, Junie is running in code mode, as you can see here. And this is where Junie takes full control, traversing the project, as you saw, opening files, editing code, running the tests, and verifying results. But you can also ask Junie to switch into ask mode. And so this is a read-only mode for Junie. In ask mode, Junie explores the project and answers questions without making any changes. So by default, Junie asks for your approval before running sensitive actions, things like executing terminal commands or using external tools. However, there's also Brave mode. And in Brave mode, you can move a lot faster. You can allow Junie to execute terminal commands without confirmation. In addition to Brave mode, you also have an action allow list setting. And so with this setting, you can specify actions that Junie will execute without confirmation. So this is useful if you're not comfortable running in Brave mode. However, you do want to allow Junie to have some autonomy and not have to approve every terminal command that runs. And so this is where the action allow list comes in, and you can use Java regex syntax and add different commands into the list here. So you can see here as an example, I have the ls command added as a terminal command. You also can sort of greenlight MCP commands, test commands, as well as build and preview commands can all be entered here into the allow list. So as Junie executes tasks, it runs real terminal commands under the hood. You can open Junie's terminal right here in the side panel, and you can watch Junie work live in action in the terminal. This way you stay aware of exactly what's happening, even while Junie is operating autonomously. As you can see here, it's executed some tests. Those tests have passed, and Junie has access to the test passing. Just like the AI assistant, Junie also has the ability to connect to MCP servers. So again, if you access the Junie settings, you can see here MCP settings. I've went ahead and connected a few different MCP servers, such as GitHub, Context 7, and Puppeteer. And again, this is a way to allow Junie to have access to project-specific tools if you have your own internal MCP servers or external servers like the ones I have set up. But within the settings, you also have the ability to restrict Junie to a specific project or directory path. You can see here under project settings, we have the project path option, and you can specify, which module or which level in a project that you want Junie to be able to access. And whatever you specify, anything outside of this, Junie will actually request confirmation before trying to access anything inside of it. So now that Junie's finished, you can see all the modified and created files listed here in the Done panel. We can see that Junie's created this file. I can inspect the diff view here. This is a newly generated file, so you can see it's all green. And I can also add this file to Git to be tracked. If I'm unhappy with those results, then I can also roll back. And then you can see here also that Junie created the special file, the .Junie folder, and created the guidelines markdown file. All right, so currently our JuniVest app is not wired up to any LLM service. You type in a question and Junie comes back with dummy data. However, now let's ask Junie to wire it up to a LLM service so that we can get actual responses from Open Router. Okay, so now let's ask Junie to implement this LLM service that's going to make our app a lot smarter. So I have a pre-written prompt here. And in this prompt, I'm asking Junie to implement the LLM service with strict test-driven development principles. I had a file or a folder that was already created called services. And inside of there, I had a file called chat service file. And so I'm asking Junie to implement this new feature in that file. And so again, we can see Junie in action, searching through the project, getting the project structure, opening up various files, and we'll see it eventually send off the request to the LLM. So as Junie is executing, we can see here on the left that Junie has come up with a plan. You can actually copy the plan to the clipboard or follow along right here in the side pane as Junie is executing through the plan and each step. Currently, we can see that Junie is on step 3 from the indicator here, and it's running tests and going to fix any failing tests in the process. Great. We can see that Junie's finished. It's all done. We have our new chat service here. Let's take a look at the file. So looks like Junie's went ahead and created a constant for the Open Router URL, which is great, using the completions endpoint. It's using our system prompt as directed. And it's also built all the other functionality for this service. Let's give it a look and give it a test and see how it's working. So now that Junie's all done, let's take a look at our project and see the changes that it's made. If I switch over here to JuniVest again, I can see that I'm being greeted by the chatbot. Let's send off a request here. Let's say I'm new to investing and I'd like to know if I were to invest $100 today, what tech stocks would you recommend? So now the request is being sent to the LLM, and we should get a response back here with some advice on the best tech stocks to invest in as of today. All thanks to JuniVest. Let's see what we get. Great. And so you can see the response now. It's not the standard boilerplate mock data response that we had in place. This is actually coming back from the LLM. It's recommending various, ETFs, VGTs from Vanguard. It shouts out a couple companies here as in Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon, as well as Zoom. And again, this is all thanks to a simple prompt from Junie to make our app that much more capable and smarter and actually connected to an API, a service that connects to outside LLMs. All right, so before we wrap up, I also want to show you a quick glimpse of Junie working outside the IDE, directly in GitHub. So Junie for GitHub is currently in early access, but it extends the same coding agent capabilities into your repositories, issues, and pull requests. So how does it work? So once installed, Junie will configure itself automatically by adding a workflow file and a dev container.json. So it can build and test your project in a containerized environment. From there, you can trigger Junie simply by mentioning it in an issue or a pull request or a comment. For example, you can add something like @JetBrains Junie to request a fix, to generate code, or review a PR. Junie will then run in the background, create or update the branch, and push changes back to GitHub. We can look at this in action. Let's take a look here in my project. So if I create a new issue here and mention Junie in the title, I can send off the request to have Junie work on this asynchronously in GitHub. Let's give it a task. How about Junie? Conduct a security analysis on the project. Write your findings in a file in the root called spec analysis findings.md. Great. So now that I've created the title, I've mentioned Junie. I can create this. And now we can wait for Junie to accept the request and begin working on it. What we should see here momentarily is a thumbs up from Junie, acknowledging that the request was successfully received, followed up by a comment that Junie has started to work on this request. We can also follow along here. If we click on the processing piece, you can follow along each step as Junie works through this request, or you can go have a cup of coffee while Junie works asynchronously. Just to give you an example of what it looks like when Junie finishes, I have a request that I ran here earlier, and you can see that Junie successfully completed the request and then submitted this for a PR. So that's Junie, our autonomous coding agent that can navigate your project, plan and execute complex tasks, edit files, run tests, and deliver results, all while keeping you in control of what gets applied. Together with AI Assistant, Junie gives you the flexibility to choose how AI supports your workflow. Assistant for interactive, in-the-moment help, and Junie for those larger autonomous operations. Thanks for joining.
That was a great demo. Now you're hopefully wondering, how can I get Junie for my team? It's available through several subscription plans, and every plan includes both Junie and AI Assistant. There are 3 options depending on how you use AI. AI Pro is ideal for individual developers or teams with occasional use. AI Ultimate is designed for heavy usage in production environments, and AI Enterprise is designed for large organizations with complex requirements. You can explore all the plans using the short link you can see on the screen. For now, let's focus on AI Enterprise, our most advanced offering. It's a scalable solution designed specifically for large teams and more complex workflows. Junie is fully included in AI Enterprise, so your developers can benefit from the agent experience you saw today, with all the guardrails and controls your organization needs. With AI Enterprise, you can enable and disable AI for your whole organization, specific teams, or individuals. You also get enterprise security, advanced user and group access management is available, as well as single sign-on authentication. And there's more. With AI Enterprise, you get access to AI audit logs, so you can track interactions between JetBrains AI and external AI services. You can connect to your preferred AI provider using your own keys, and we have flexible deployment options in the cloud, on premises, or in hybrid setups. With that, our webinar is coming to a close, and it's time to wrap up. We've talked about how AI is reshaping development workflows, and the AI coding agents are no longer optional. They're becoming a core part of modern software development. Let me leave you with 4 key points to remember. First, Junie helps teams move faster without compromising on code quality. That's business critical. Second, teams stay in control. With Junie, your developers have full oversight. Third, it's built with security in mind. We don't retain data on our servers or through subcontractors. And finally, Junie works right inside JetBrains IDEs, the tools that developers love. That means no context switching, no retraining, just a smooth path to more productive workflows. Before we go, if you'd like your team to try Junie, we've got a special offer for you. You can get access to AI Ultimate free for 30 days with up to 10 seats per company. This offer is valid until November the 15th. But keep in mind, activations are limited, so it's best not to wait. Fill out the form using the link you see on the screen. You can also find this link in the video description. Thanks a lot for joining us today, and we hope you give Junie a try with your team. Bye for now.